Okay, it is time now for Media Watch. James Creedon is with us in the studio. I'm
Hi,
delighted
Laura.
to say hello, James. We're going to go back to China, where Donald Trump has been enjoying another lavish red carpet welcome. He's been shown all around today. Now, aside from talking about his incredibly warm feelings, as he put it, for the Chinese president, he's also been tweeting, hasn't he? What does he have to say?
Previously, he tweeted much less warm things about them, but he has been tweeting from China, which is already interesting because most people can't. Just to kind of go back on what he... they do nothing for us with North Korea, they being China. Just talk. We will no longer allow this to continue. China could easily solve this problem. So via Twitter, he has in the past.
This is back in July.
That's right. But his tweets are longer now because they can be. And also very warm and adulatory. And you can see here, he even, the backdrop.
Oh, he changed his profile pic.
So it's a big...
BFFs, aren't they?
A Twitter loving. It's a Diplo Twitter loving. It's all very nice. But there has been a degree of curiosity as to how, because of course in China, there's a big encouragement by the state to not use Twitter and Facebook. Encouragement, i.e. You're banned. You
can't use it.
So they prefer them to be on Weibo and other Chinese or originating social networks.
Sites.
That's right. But if you have a VPN, you can get around it. So if you have access to a VPN, you can get around it. And Xinhua, the state, one of the state media, they tweet their articles regularly. So there is a double standard.
I can imagine the Chinese official trying to prise Donald Trump's phone out of his hands.
Well, it wouldn't have worked. It would have created a diplomatic incident, and the whole point was that wouldn't happen. And as they point out in some of the coverage, if Trump had decided to stay off Twitter in China, it would have been perceived as him being silenced. So I think all efforts were being made.
It's the equivalent of women wearing headscarves when they go to Arab countries, isn't it? Really? I guess the male version.
The Trump tweetery has extended into all sorts of realms. But ahead of his visit, one of the vice foreign ministers assured reporters that he would be able to tweet, and indeed various, even on his own in the plane or whatever that he flew in on, they would have had the facilities to allow him to tweet if in China he could not. So can you imagine him retreating back into the plane to tweet? It didn't have to happen. What else do we have? There are some cartoons of the trip to China where everybody was anticipating that he would be rather bullish.
All in a China shop.
That's right. But in fact, apart from references to North Korea, it's all been very grown up indeed, although let's hope it continues. Of course, the wall gets a mention in this particular cartoon by Strib, I think is his name. Strib. And just speaking of, just one final tweet, because of course now, I think he inaugurated his 280 character tweets.
Now, aren't they?
This is it. And do you remember all the China talk during the campaign? China. There were all these videos because he kept mentioning China as the big sort of concern. And now...
Oh, yeah, I remember someone did a meme of all the
times he used the word China. That's all forgotten now. Well, while he's there.
So much has changed in just a year, hasn't it?
It's crazy.
Should we leave Donald Trump aside and move on to the French president, Emmanuel Macron?
But be careful, he might make an appearance again.
Ah, all right. But not on Time
As
magazine.
we talk about Macron,
yes.
he might make an appearance.
Okay. I see where you're going here. All right.
Well, Time magazine.
Flattering portrait.
This is it. It's they've
a real one this time.
That's right. The next
That's what you're alluding to.
The next leader of Europe. The next leader of Europe. If he can lead France, do you see what they've done there? And you can see asterisks if only he can lead France. In other words, leadership in Europe is sort of almost a natural sort of consequence for him, given that all of that. But if he can actually stay popular in France, because of course his approval ratings are plummeting 6 months in. Now, some are being really silly here, and they're saying, "Oh, look at the front cover of Time. Isn't this troubling?" If you can see at the top here. But of course, this always happens with Time because it's an M. And, whenever you have a face in front of an M, it looks like a devil's horns. Do you see that?
Oh, no, I didn't see that. But
well, it's a bit silly. I mean, it's a bit silly. But somebody was saying that this is troubling. But as I said, that's already happened. But in any case, to get back to the meat and bones of the actual article, Time went and met him at the Elysee Palace, and look, it's a bit of a PR piece.
Understated room.
It's right. There's nothing particularly surprising that came out of it. They did ask him an awful lot about relations with Donald Trump's America. He spoke about the climate summit, the fact that in December leaders of 100 countries will descend on Paris to ramp up the global fight against climate change. The only one who won't be there right now is Donald Trump, because of course all of the other... Even Syria now has come on board.
Even Bashar al-Assad.
It's quite extraordinary. They say that Macron barely concealed his annoyance. He said you cannot renegotiate with 180 or 190 countries. of course, Donald Trump said it needed to be renegotiated. He said, what is your plan B? We don't know what his plan B is. So they spoke to him about that. They spoke to him about all other aspects, etc. But you see, it was 6 months since he was elected on Monday. So there's a lot of articles like this. This is Laura Marlowe as well, writing for the Irish Times. That kind of is an echo of the front cover. Next leader of Europe, if he can continue to lead France, because of course the French are famously difficult to please and govern. And this is a quote here.
It's all the cheeses, apparently.
That's it. The French elect a president to be a king, then they want to cut his head off. That's actually a quote from Emmanuel Macron himself when he was still a minister, and he was referencing François Hollande, since gone, not decapitated, but gone.
A week of anniversaries, isn't it? 6 months for Macron and a year for Trump.
That's it. That's it. It was indeed quite the week. So just speaking of whether or not he'll be able to lead Europe, there's a lot of people, of course, who don't want him leading Europe either. And this is a cartoon online referencing, or with I suppose, a satirical image of him and Madame Merkel. So natural leader of Europe is also quite a complex place right now. So
yes, certainly is. James, we'll have to leave it there. But thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Laura.
For being in there.